Imagine this. You're the CEO of an empire that's 4,000 years old, drowning in gold, with massive temples built in your honor and a whole population that either adores you or at least pretends to. All you gotta do is rule with a golden scepter, get yourself a pyramid, and make sure the gods stay happy. Easy, right? Now, let's be real. Was being a pharaoh really all sunshine and gold, or was there a darker side to all this power? This wasn't some cushy office job, and it definitely wasn't like being a modern billionaire like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. Okay, maybe it was closer to being British royalty, a lot of ceremonies, high expectations, but also a lot of backstabbers waiting for the right moment. Think about all those political and war movies, like Game of Thrones, but with mummies and ancient gods in the mix. That's right, being a pharaoh wasn't just about striking poses. It was about surviving betrayals at the level of my own brother is trying to kill me while I sip my afternoon tea. So yeah, pharaoh life wasn't exactly a walk in the park. Let's dive into the behind-the-scenes chaos and see where the real power was hiding. Hey Discovers, real quick before we dive back in, I've got a small favor to ask. If you love historical curiosities, epic battles, crazy mysteries, and mind-blowing stories that most people don't know about, then hit that subscribe button right now. That way, you won't miss any of our new videos and can keep uncovering insane facts every week. And of course, smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow and brings you even more awesome content. Alright, let's jump back into history. Being a pharaoh wasn't just about sitting on a throne and looking cool. Getting the job wasn't even guaranteed, and the process to become one? Well, let's just say it was a bit more complicated than you'd think. First off, some pharaohs claimed they were direct descendants of the gods. Imagine your mom telling you, "Oh, by the way, you're not just my kid, you're also the son of Ra." In today's world, that would be like a politician claiming to be descended from Superman. A pretty bold claim. But in ancient Egypt, totally legit. And, of course, the priests had to sign off on all of it, because nothing happened in Egypt without religious approval. But hold up, being a pharaoh wasn't all divine status and power trips. These future rulers went through some hardcore training from childhood. Politics, religion, warfare, the whole package. If you think their education was just playing Senet, that famous Egyptian board game, think again. They had to master military strategy and even communicate directly with the gods. Then came the big day, the coronation. Before rocking the crown, the new pharaoh had to go through a purification ritual. Probably a bit more elaborate than your morning shower. Then came the double crown, the white crown for Upper Egypt and the red crown for Lower Egypt, symbolizing the unification of the kingdom. And let's not forget the grand presentation to the gods in temples like Karnak or Luxor. Basically a Hollywood-level production, just with more incense and animal sacrifices. Ruling Egypt wasn't just about governing people. It was about maintaining balance in the universe. Imagine having to keep both humans and gods happy at the same time. If you think your boss is demanding, try pleasing an entire pantheon of Egyptian deities. Ah, the pharaoh lifestyle. You'd think it was all luxury and worship, right? Yeah, not exactly. Being a pharaoh wasn't just about running an empire, it was about staying alive. And no, this wasn't some celebrity reality show drama. This was House of Cards meets ancient Egypt, just with more pyramids and fewer Senate hearings. So, what was really happening behind the palace doors? Backstabbing, obviously. One of the biggest royal betrayals? The harem conspiracy of 1155 BC. Pharaoh Ramses III was assassinated by his own wife and servants. I mean, if that's not straight out of a movie, I don't know what is. And King Tut's mysterious death? To this day, no one's 100% sure if he was murdered or just had a freak accident. Gotta love a good ancient mystery. And family drama. Oh, it was next level. Many times, it was the pharaoh's own son trying to steal the throne. Sound familiar? Just like those modern family inheritance fights, except back then, losing meant losing your life, not just the family fortune. But who were the pharaoh's biggest enemies? Besides their own power-hungry relatives, who were basically walking time bombs, the priests were just as powerful as the rulers. They controlled the temples, the wealth, and even the people's loyalty. If the priests weren't on your side, your reign was doomed. And let's not forget the military generals, If you lost their trust, you could kiss the throne goodbye because the army could overthrow you in a heartbeat. So, how did pharaohs stay alive with enemies lurking everywhere? They had food tasters, because poisoning was a very real threat. Sounds familiar, right? Even modern royals take precautions like this. They had a spy network inside the palace, because you never knew who was plotting behind your back. And if anyone even seemed suspicious, boom, the pharaoh would have them executed before they had the chance to act. Being a pharaoh was basically like living in a never-ending episode of Game of Thrones. Minus the White Walkers, but plus a whole lot of mummies. Being a prince in ancient Egypt must have been pretty sweet, right? Picture this, a giant palace, golden toys, extravagant parties, and all the fun a future pharaoh could ever want. Sounds like a dream, huh? Well, not so fast. If you think a prince's life was all about chilling and luxury, you might want to rethink that. From an early age, Egyptian princes were put through intense training. Basically, a royal boot camp. They had classes with the best tutors, learning about politics, religion, and, of course, warfare. And no, this wasn't just so they could sound smart at palace dinner parties. Future pharaohs had to be military strategists, ready to take on invaders and even put down rebellions in their own empire. But the training didn't stop there. Physical conditioning was just as important. Not for looks, but for survival. These guys trained like warriors, mastering hand-to-hand combat, archery, and battle tactics. In other words, if a prince couldn't shoot an arrow straight, he probably wouldn't last long as pharaoh, or worse, he might have an accident along the way. And let's talk about family drama again, because royal rivalries in Egypt were next-level intense. Unlike in Europe, where the eldest son usually inherited the throne, Egypt's succession was a blood sport. Brothers fought, sometimes literally, for the crown, and being part of the royal family wasn't just about learning from tutors, it was also about surviving palace rivalries. But hey, life wasn't all swords and politics. Princes had games like Senate, the OG board game, and they played with miniature boats and wooden figurines. When they weren't training to be warriors, they enjoyed lavish parties with live music and scented baths. Seriously, who wouldn't want a bath that smelled like heavenly oils and flowers? Of course, being prince number 2, or 3, or 4, was risky business. Your biggest enemy? Your own siblings. 1 minute, you're enjoying a feast. The next, you're in a deadly race for the throne. A life of privilege. Sure, but also a life of constant danger. And now, we get to the most fascinating part of a pharaoh's journey: death. You thought their lives were over the top? Their funerals were even crazier. Because in ancient Egypt, death wasn't the end, it was just the beginning. And if you were pharaoh, your trip to the afterlife had to be just as grand as your rule. When a pharaoh died, his body was handled with extreme care. And no, this wasn't your average funeral service. The mummification process took up to 70 days. That's right, 70 days of meticulous preservation, because in Egypt, eternity was a serious investment. The process included removing all internal organs. They got their own fancy jars called canopic jars. Drying the body out with a ton of natron, a salt-like substance. Wrapping the whole thing up in linen bandages, turning the body into a mummy. Basically, think of the most extreme skincare routine ever, except this one lasted forever. And let's talk sarcophagi, because these weren't just coffins. Pharaohs were placed inside elaborate golden sarcophagi, loaded with jewels, treasures, and magical spells. It was basically a time capsule of wealth, ensuring they arrived in the afterlife dripping in gold. But the real concern wasn't the treasure, it was the soul's final judgment. In the afterlife, the pharaoh's heart was weighed against the feather of truth by Osiris, the god of the underworld. If his heart was pure, congrats! The pharaoh got to chill forever in the fields of reeds, basically, Egyptian paradise. If his heart was heavy with lies and sins, his soul got eaten by Ammit, a terrifying creature that was part lion, part crocodile, part hippo. Yeah, that wasn't the retirement plan anyone wanted. Ancient Egyptians took afterlife prep so seriously that they spent more time planning for it than most people spend planning for retirement today. Talk about long-term thinking. So, What do we think about life as a pharaoh? They had everything: gold, power, thousands of loyal subjects, massive temples in their honor, and even a guaranteed VIP spot in the afterlife, if they played their cards right. But, was it actually a dream job or more like a never-ending stress fest? Think about it. A pharaoh was basically a divine CEO, with all the pressure and zero work-life balance. Instead of answering to shareholders, he answered to the gods. Instead of wearing suits, he rocked a golden crown and royal robes. And while sitting at the top seemed great, the reality was full of betrayals, power struggles, and assassination plots. Pharaohs had everything, except peace of mind. So, what do you think? Would you take the throne knowing that one wrong move could get you overthrown, or worse, eliminated by your own family? Or would you pass the crown to the next guy? Let me know in the comments. Was the life of a pharaoh a dream or a total nightmare? And if you had to rule Egypt, which era would you choose? Drop your answers below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe for more wild history stories.